Welcome to Seattle College's international programs and our show Conversations With, where we talk to people that help you understand how you too can be an international student in the United States and why Seattle Colleges should be your first choice. We'll talk to students and staff and agents and government folks, all kinds of people about what you can expect when you're getting ready to apply or travel here, what you'll experience while you're with us, and how it can all lead to an amazing life. Don't forget to check out the Seattle College's International Programs website at intl.seattlecolleges.edu, where you can find a treasure trove of information about the school, the programs here, and best of all, fill out and submit your application. Again, that's intl.seattlecolleges.edu. Hey everybody, welcome back to Seattle College's Conversations With here at Seattle Central College in beautiful downtown Seattle. Welcome back, Shun. Now, you may not recognize him because last time he did this podcast, it was audio only.
Yeah, that's right.
Now you get to see the handsome Shun. Shun, can you introduce yourself? It's actually important to introduce yourself because you've actually been promoted since the last time we talked.
I transitioned to a new role. So my name is Shen. I am the Associate Director of International Student Services here at Seattle Colleges. So before we did a podcast interview, that was how many years ago? I can't remember. 2 years. 2 seasons. That time I was an International Student Advisor, primarily at North Campus.
Right.
But now I transitioned to my new role where I travel to all 3 campuses.
Putting miles on the car.
That's right.
Do you have to drive?
I do. I mean, I could take light rail, but still it takes about the same time.
Yeah.
So it's easier for me to just drive down.
Yeah, I take light rail pretty much everywhere I go, except for south, because there is no light rail that goes out to south.
Not yet.
Not yet. Yeah. Maybe one day. Please, that'd be great. But the bus isn't too bad.
Yeah.
The 125 takes you right out there. Mm-hmm. So what's the difference between the job you were doing as an advisor and what you're doing now? Like, what are your additional duties?
Yeah, so I was the primary advisor for students at North, international students at North. So I was providing academic and immigration advising to students attending North Seattle College. But now I oversee front desk managers at 3 campuses, and I do sort of support for advising at 3 campuses.
Gotcha.
So if there's a need for advising support, then I will be putting on a advisor hat, and then I support advisors.
Like you did today when I came into your office an hour early. So ridiculous. Yeah, you were advising. That's really great. Yeah. So you like being at each of the campuses? That must be kind of cool.
I do, because each campus has such a unique culture and people. And I love interacting with students from different campuses, and different campuses have different programs.
That's true.
Yeah, so each day is a different day, and I love being at 3 campuses.
Nice.
Yeah.
Well, we're going to get into the information that you've probably all joined us for. We are focusing just on one particular aspect of what goes on here called OPT. You want to tell them what OPT stands for?
OPT stands for Optional Practical Training.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, and we'll talk about what that means. But before we get into that, before we get into OPT, you all should know that Shun just finished a marathon, which is pretty awesome.
Yes, that was my first full marathon.
That's crazy.
Yeah, and I can't believe I did that. But I'm just feel such a sense of accomplishment, and it was a long time bucket list of mine. So finally, I checked the box, and yeah.
And where was it?
It was in Florida.
It was in Florida.
Yeah,
it's a long ways to go just for the marathon. Now, last time I talked to you, you were still a little sore. Is it all passed now?
I'm done. Cool. And I actually run for the first time since the marathon. So it was kind of weird feeling to be running again, but it feels great.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
No shin splints?
No injury. Thankfully.
Yeah. Right on. Do you think you'll do another one?
Not full marathon. I think That
You're
was
done.
one and only.
Yeah.
And I think I'm more inclined to do half marathons.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, half is a lot shorter, half.
Still a long ways.
Yeah, it still is, but it's more enjoyable.
Right.
It doesn't feel like it's a torture.
It's not torture. I'm curious how you trained to do a full marathon, because I like to run, but I run 20 minutes and I'm like, all right, I want to do something else. If you train for a marathon, you kind of got to go out there and spend some time on the road. Yeah?
You do, yeah. So every 2 weeks, I increase miles by 2. So I started maybe running 5 miles, and then 2 weeks later, I run 7 miles, 9 miles, and then I got to 17 miles or so. That was like the maximum that I could have run.
Yeah.
So 26 mile was beyond my imagination, but I did it.
And when we talked before, you told me at one point, how many miles in before you hit a wall?
20 miles.
20 miles.
Yeah, 20 was the biggest.
And what does that feel like when you hit the wall? I mean, you just don't want to run anymore? You just want to sit down and cry?
Physically, mentally, I'm like, can I do this? Can I just quit right now?
Right.
And that was just a, physical, mental struggle and fight with myself. But I pushed through, and yeah.
Did you stop at any point to eat something?
Yeah. So there are like water station, banana, snacks, and all sorts of, goodies.
Yeah.
Yeah, because you can't, run for, several hours without eating. So,
Right.
Yeah.
So when you were training for it, did you change your diet in any way?
Not as much as I should have, because I still love junk food. I love dessert.
Sure.
So not as much as I should have,
Yeah.
but I somehow, managed to do it.
Right. Have you listened to David Goggins' book where he talks about running these 100-milers?
No.
Yeah. So he talks about running these 100-mile runs, and it's hard for me to wrap my head around running that far. I mean, a marathon's hard enough, but I was going to ask, any idea, any desire to try something even more ambitious?
That's like a Bob Human level.
Right. But yeah, there's a lot of people that do it.
Yeah,
go
my
out there
friends actually do like ultra marathon and 100 miles, 24-hour marathon. I don't know how they do it.
I don't either.
Unimaginable.
It is unimaginable.
Yeah.
But I think what he kind of talks about in his book is this 40% rule. Like, we leave a lot on the table. Like, there's always more in the gas tank. Like, you and I are having a hard time imagining it, but probably could do it with the right training, the right diet,
the right
mental space.
Yeah, totally.
So,
yeah.
well, let me know if you ever decide you're going to do that 100
I'll let you know.
That'd be cool. What's any other big goals you want to meet in the next year? I mean, you knocked off the marathon.
Yeah, I mean, in terms of physical, exercise, I think marathon was my, highest goal.
That was the biggie.
Yeah, I haven't really thought about anything above. But I still want to continue running for enjoyment and also for my health.
Right, yeah.
So, yeah.
There you go, guys. If you want to know about marathons, check in with Shun. He can help you. But if you want to know about OPT, Optical Practical Training, he's your guy. And we're going to get into that topic right now.
All right.
We decided we were going to spend a whole podcast talking about this because I had run into a student who was in a bit of a panic and there was some confusion about timelines. And I'd say, what percentage of our students decide they want to do OPT, do you think?
That's a good question. I'd say between 20 and 30%.
Okay.
Yeah.
And basically, correct me if I'm wrong, OPT is just work that you do following your completion of your program. Right?
That's correct. So basically, a student can use the knowledge and skills that they gain through their classes, their degree, and apply that to professional experience.
Right.
So OPT, one of the important things to remember is to engage in an employment that is directly related to their study. So that is a requirement for optional practical training.
Right. And I read that, and it seems like that's a little bit open to interpretation. So if I'm a business major, just about everything out there is doing some sort of business, right? So is it a stretch to say, oh yeah, I'm a business major, so I want to work at, Amazon? I mean, that seems like a reasonable thing, but I'm a business major and I want to work at a law firm. That maybe, how do you decide?
Could be.
Who decides?
So we don't decide. It's
Oh.
the student's responsibility to make that direct connection between employment and what they have studied. And students on OPT are required by law to report their employment. And one of the requirements is to write and explain how the job is related to their field, major. So one of the examples that I give students is to use some of the classes that they took and then apply that towards their employment and what they do. So for example, if they can say, I took business law class in my business degree and I'm applying that skills and knowledge into the employment at law firm, then I think that's a great explanation.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay, so there's an application that they have to fill out in order to do this, and there they get that opportunity to talk about what they want to do. So I guess going back to, we kind of know what OPT is now. It's work following their degree. They have to make a decision about whether they want to even do OPT or not. You said only a certain percentage do it. What would be the reason for not doing it? Why? I guess, what are the pros and cons of doing OPT?
Pros, definitely for students to gain professional experience in their own major.
Yeah.
And when they apply academic experience and professional experience, that is a great combination. So that's definitely a biggest pro. Cons, if students have a certain timeline of completing their education, then that OPT, 12 months of OPT could be a gap year.
Right.
And that could delay their educational goal.
That's true. I think another pro I've heard that, like, they actually get paid, right?
Well, it could be paid or unpaid. It doesn't really matter because the point is to gain professional experience.
Right.
So it could be unpaid internship or volunteer experience.
It could be unpaid.
Yes, unpaid internship or volunteer experience within their major. And if it's paid, that's great.
Sure.
You're, earning income plus, getting hands-on skills in your major.
Right. Okay, I didn't realize. I thought all the positions were paid, so that's not necessarily the case. All right, fair enough. That's cool. So there's another acronym I've heard batted around when I go into the other office, like CPT, which stands for
Curricular Practical Training.
All right, so you'll hear CPT and you'll hear OPT. And if you haven't come to the United States yet as a student, you may be like, I don't know what these things mean. What is the difference between CPT and OPT?
So the shortest answer I can give is CPT is something that students can pursue while they're in school.
While they're a student?
Yes. So, for example, if your program requires internship as graduation requirement, then you can get the employment authorization, CPT, to be able to pursue employment or internship off campus to gain that experience.
Right. So can you give me an example? Can you think of a program that requires CPT?
Let's see.
Like culinary? Does culinary require?
They do not, because they do all the hands-on skills in the program on campus.
Gotcha.
So some of the programs that require CPT are some of the BS programs.
Oh, okay.
They usually have internship components, and students can pursue those requirements off campus, or if there's any on-campus employment that they can apply towards their internship, then they could do that on campus as well.
Okay. So OPT, they apply for, they get in, we'll get into the details of that. But I heard that not only do you apply for it, but you also have to pay to do it.
That's correct. So
is it cheap?
It's currently $470 for application fee.
Too bad.
Well, yeah, it's so expensive, in the head of students.
Sure.
But so CPT is authorized by international programs. So we DSO authorize CPT OPT is approved by USCIS, so students will have to apply, submit application to USCIS, and pay the application fee of $470.
Right. And we love acronyms here in the United States. So if you're out there listening and you're like, I don't know what USCIS is, what does that stand for?
So United States Citizenship and USC
Customs and
Immigration Services.
Yeah.
Sorry. Yeah.
Yeah. Customs and Immigration Services. You're hearing a lot about them on the news.
Citizenship and Immigration Services.
Oh, okay. Gotcha. So yeah, that's who you'll go through when you do the application. Yep. All right. Very good. So there are also some other scenarios for work. I mean, there's CPT, OPT. Can you think of any others? Like the other day, I ran into a student and they were looking to do volunteer for credit, but it's not CPT, is it?
So volunteer credit is something that Seattle Central College offers, and you can actually engage in volunteer activities with nonprofit organization, and you can earn credits, and that credits can count towards your graduation requirements. Yeah, so that's a benefit of taking volunteer class and then earn credits.
Do you have to match up the beginning of that volunteer work with the beginning of a quarter, or can you just jump in and do that volunteer work anytime and get the credit?
So it depends on how many credits they enroll, because depending on the credit number, then the required hours are different. So
that makes sense.
Yeah, so when students are not able to complete the required hours within the quarter, I believe there's extension of the quarters that you can pursue and then complete the required hours.
Gotcha. Is there kind of an average number of hours students usually go after when they do volunteer for credit?
It's usually 1 to 2 credits.
Oh, okay. So it's not a lot.
So that's not too many. And I think that's doable for students to complete within a quarter or so.
Right. Now, volunteering for credit or CPT, are those counted as in-person time towards their visa requirement? Like they have to have so many credits in person or hybrid to maintain visa status?
So volunteer credits, you specifically enroll in that volunteer credit class. I believe they do count as in person.
Oh, okay.
Whereas CPT, depending on the program or internship class that you enroll, it might be online or in person. Right. So that depends on types of internship class that each campus offer.
Right. So they should really check with their advisor about how it's going to look.
Or internship coordinator at each campus.
Oh, okay. They're different people?
Yes. So North, Central have different internship coordinators, and South, I believe, have work source department that oversees internship.
So who's I work at Central. Who's our internship coordinator?
Karen Kato.
Oh, okay. There you go.
Yeah.
Great. Very good. So does the college help you find, well, I mean, we're talking about 3 different things. We're really focused on OPT, but let's say I want to do OPT. I want to get that work experience. I want to take some time. Does the college help me find that work, or is it all up to me?
So I think students should have a good idea of what kind of employment they want to pursue, or location or types of employers.
Right.
But each campus has career services, services, and they can go to those departments to get job search tips and practice their job interview skills, editing their resume and cover letter. So these are the types of services that career services can provide. Gotcha.
So if I'm, say, an aeronautical engineering major, and I've had this come up a few times, and they're like, oh, I want to start looking for OPT, they can kind of help connect them with some of the aerospace engineering companies around town.
Yeah. And then also Seattle Colleges uses some app called Handshake.
Oh, okay.
And that's an app that students can use to search for employment within specific field.
Can you get on Handshake from anywhere, or do you have to be on campus to get on it?
I believe you can get on it anywhere.
Okay.
Yeah.
So check with the front desk at your campus, and you can talk to them about how to get on Handshake. They'll set you in the right direction. So I had heard when I was talking to this student that there are sometimes better quarters to graduate in than others because the likelihood of your application getting processed by USCIS it goes faster and it's more likely you won't burn up as much time waiting. Is that true?
Unfortunately, it's true.
Okay.
Typically, spring quarter graduate experience longer wait time because most of the international students in the United States, they're graduating in the spring semester quarter.
Right.
And that is when there are more application going into USCIS and that creates backlog of application. So especially spring quarter graduates, I highly recommend that they apply as early as possible.
Right. Yeah. But they can't apply too early, right?
That's correct. There's a time frame.
So let's get into the time frames because this is tricky. So listen closely, people. Let's talk about that time.
Yeah. So when a student is graduating, they can apply as early as 90 days before their graduation day. So graduation day is typically the last day of the final quarter. And during my OPT workshop, which I can talk about later on, I present what date their application window opens. So that's the earliest a student can submit OPT application to USCIS. If they submit earlier than 90 days, 91 days, 92 days before graduation, unfortunately, their application will be denied for applying too early.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
And the good news is the OPT workshop that you do, you offer it pretty regularly, right?
Yes. So I offer once a month, but sometimes I offer 2 times a month, especially when it's closer to graduation. So more students can attend and get more information about how they can apply for OPT.
Sure. And, we have 3 campuses. So do you do this seminar at each campus?
No, I offer OPT workshop virtually. So
it's virtual?
Virtual, yes.
Oh.
So students can log into their computer on Zoom anywhere. So that doesn't really restrict students to be at, one location physically.
Right. That makes a tremendous amount of sense. Duh. So how do they sign up for this workshop?
Yeah, so I create OPT workshop flyer for each month, and they can go into the URL or scan a QR code on the flyer and then register to attend for OPT workshop.
Perfect. Pretty easy. That's really great. I don't have to do a full year of OPT, do I? Let's say I just want to take 6 months to work because I don't want to spend too much time. Is that possible?
Great question. Yes, it is possible, and it's up to students how long they want to do OPT. So once you are approved for OPT, yes, you are most likely given 12 months of OPT. That's maximum, but you get to choose how long you want to do OPT, and after that, it depends on your plan. Transfer to university, or start a new program study, or return to your home country.
Right.
It's really important that they take an action on their immigration record, so the OPT doesn't go on while they're not pursuing employment.
Right. So let's say I graduate in the spring and I just want to spend the summer working and then get right back into it in the fall. That's totally possible.
That's totally possible. Yep.
Good idea, guys. So these guys, if let's say you're an environmental studies major and you want to go spend the summer counting frogs for the Forest Service. Totally possible?
Totally possible.
Nice.
And OPT can be done anywhere in the entire United States. So it doesn't have to be within Washington State. If you find a great job in New York or Florida or Texas, you can move there and then pursue your employment there.
That's very cool.
Yeah.
So, Hawaii.
Yeah.
Why not make it a work vacation? That would be kind of cool.
That would be too hard to work.
What about Puerto Rico? Could they go to our Commonwealths or maybe U.S. Samoa? Or?
That's a great question. I do have to do a research on that because I've never had any students doing OPT in U.S. adjacent islands or anything like that. Yeah.
The cool thing is the U.S. is a big place, so you can do the lower 48. You could do Alaska. You could do Hawaii. And perhaps, we don't know for sure, maybe you can reach out to our commonwealths, different parts of the world. So let your imagination go crazy. Yeah. I think that's kind of cool. Okay, so let's say I've done 6 months of my program, like say a 6-month IP short-term certificate. Can I get right into OPT after that?
So to be eligible for OPT, you have to complete at least 1 full academic year of full-time enrollment, which is typically 9 months of full-time enrollment. So unfortunately, 6 months doesn't reach that requirement,
Right. Gotcha.
eligibility requirement. So if they want to pursue OPT, definitely we recommend that they extend their program. So perhaps they can complete 9 months of full-time enrollment and be eligible for OPT.
So if they applied to Seattle colleges to do a 6-month short-term certificate, and then they they want to change their mind and do an extra quarter so they can get the OPT, is it okay that they do that?
They could do that, yes. So they all have to do is extend their I-20 before their current I-20 ends so that it can be extended for the duration that they want to study.
And if you didn't catch what you just said, rewind and listen to that again. That's kind of important. Timing is really everything in this, it seems like. Mm-hmm. So the more research you do, the more planning you do, the better off you're going to be. So we talked, obviously if you get an associate's degree, that makes you eligible because you're going to be here for a couple of years probably. IP short-term certificates. What if I do SCIE? What if I do a year's worth of intensive English?
Yeah.
Could I do OPT after that?
Unfortunately, SCIE is not one of the degree that qualifies for OPT.
Right.
So to be eligible for OPT, it has to be certificate, associate, bachelor's, master, or doctoral degree. So those are the higher level degree as students can complete to be eligible for OPT.
What about VOTEC training? Let's say I do airframe and power plant out at South Seattle College. I do aviation maintenance. Can I do OPT after that?
Yes, you can.
Wow.
Yes.
There you go.
It doesn't matter what major you pursue, as long as you're completing a degree level, then you're eligible.
Cool. So check that out. What about high school completion plus students? Are they, those are younger people usually.
Yeah.
Can they do OPT?
Yes, they can, because the requirement for a high school completion plus program is to complete any associate degree level. So that means they are eligible for OPT.
So don't worry about your age too much. Just be confident and mature when you go in for your interview. Okay, so if you, let's see, it says, if you intend to do work in a job directly related to your field focus of study, it needs to be close to that field of study. It has to be within the realm of possibility. What if, somewhere along the way, when I'm getting ready to do that, I messed up my status, my F1 status at some point? I forgot to do something, then I had to get back in status. Can I still do OPT if I messed up a little bit?
Good question. So OPT is per degree level. So once you are approved for OPT, say for associate level, then that is the only OPT you get for that degree level.
Right.
So the next time someone can be eligible for OPT is when they complete higher level degree, which is bachelor's degree.
Sure. Okay, so I can do OPT after my bachelor's degree. Then I go do graduate school. Can I do OPT after I get my master's?
Master's, yes.
And then after I get my doctorate?
Yes, you can.
Great.
Yeah.
So theoretically, someone could come to the States, start their university. They could be here for years and years and years and years after just each level doing OPT.
Yeah, that's something that I mentioned during my OPT workshop, that for if one student's academic career, they could have multiple OPTs to gain professional experience. Yeah, and it's a great benefit for F1 students.
Now, you were an international student, yeah?
I was.
Did you do OPT?
I did.
Woo!
So I got my OPT after my bachelor's and also master's degree.
Oh, you did?
Yeah.
And where'd you work?
I worked at a college called Babson College, and because I studied specifically international education, I worked for an international student and scholar services office at Babson College.
Cool.
Yeah.
And how was your experience?
It was great. I used entire 12 months of OPT.
Nice.
I worked closely with DSOs and learned so much from the immigration advisors. Yeah.
And you got paid?
I did.
Woo,
yes,
nice.
It was a paid position.
Did you make enough to be able to save towards your master's degree?
Well, that was
Or,
after
I mean, towards
master's.
your next level?
Well, no, it wasn't,
Wasn't that lucrative?
no, it wasn't enough, but, it was still, the experience was more than, what I got paid. And I really appreciate for that time and my mentors
Right.
who gave me so much insight and experiences.
So it makes it like, so we have some students that live in student housing. If they live in student housing and then they graduate, but they want to do OPT, can they remain in student housing while they're doing their OPT?
Oh, that's a great question. I do have to check with our housing manager about that.
Yeah. Right on. And then the other question I had, if they are here and let's see, housing. Let's say they get hurt. Like, when they're a student with us, they usually are mandated to carry insurance. But once they kind of graduate and move on, how do they continue to take care of themselves?
Yeah, great question. So students on OPT are still eligible to continue with our health insurance through Lowmark Health Insurance.
Right.
So it's great to have some kind of medical, coverage. So if a student gets sick or get injured while on OPT, then they have that benefit to pay for their medical bills.
Right.
So if they want to continue with Lowmark Health Insurance during OPT, they have to continue purchasing every single quarter.
Every quarter.
Yeah, and if there's a break in coverage, then they lose eligibility. So they will no longer be eligible for Lowmark.
So make yourself a little flow chart of when everything has to be done. Make sure you get those things done. So don't forget about insurance. America, unfortunately, is an expensive place to get hurt or sick. So yeah, make sure you have that insurance in place. And we help with that. So that's a great deal. Wonderful. If I get hurt on the job at my place of OPT, does, what do they call it? On the job injuries, are those covered by the state if I get hurt on the job? Like, let's say I'm doing something and I fall off a ladder at work. Will like if you get hurt at work, they'll cover some of that. Does that also work? Do you know?
I'm not sure, and that might be up to employer,
Maybe.
And what kind of contract student may have with employment. But if they get hurt and they can't work, if they have medical leave authorized by the employer, then they can still maintain their F1 status because
great.
During OPT, there's a maximum days that you can go without a job, which is 90 days. So if someone goes beyond 90 days, that is a status violation.
Right.
So students have to make sure that they continue working and not go over 90 days of unemployment.
Right.
Yeah.
And just so you guys know, I believe that means that includes weekends, right?
So if someone is not working, that's correct. It includes weekends. So student has to keep track of how many days they have not worked.
Total, yeah.
And not go over 90 days. If they're struggling finding employment, it is always a great idea to talk to an advisor and also talk to career services so that they can get some resources and help in finding employment as soon as possible.
Right. Hopefully none of this will apply to you guys. Hopefully you're listening to this and you're just interested in getting into OPT. But these are nice things to kind of keep in the back of your mind just in case. And we have lots of information, or you can always talk to us to refresh your memory. It's not a problem. Well, that's great. Well, let's say I'm a student now and I'm like, I've listened to the podcast. I've talked to my buddies. They've done OPT. It's starting to sound like a really good idea to do. What's the very first thing I need to do if I've decided, yes, I'm going to do OPT? What do I got to do first?
So they should first apply for graduation. Depending on what they're pursuing. If it's a degree program, then they have to apply for graduation. If it's a IP short-term certificate program, there's no graduation application, but all students who are completing the program have to submit graduation quota requests. Basically, notify international programs that this is going to be their final quarter.
Gotcha. And they do this before they attend the workshop, or do they do it after the workshop?
Well, they can do it before or after.
Okay.
But that's a requirement for all graduating students.
Okay. Cool.
Another thing that students have to do is to attend OPT workshop.
Right.
So that they can learn what makes them eligible for OPT, what kind of documents that they need to collect, how they can file online application to USCIS.
Right. How long does the workshop take?
I schedule it for 1 hour and 15 minutes.
Oh, okay. So it's not too bad.
Yeah, but we go through a lot of important information because it's such a very, important document application for F1 students.
Yeah.
So I want to make sure that I give them, every single resource and information that they need.
Right. On average, how many students attend your
It really depends on the timing. Sometimes I only have 2 students. Sometimes I have 10 students.
All right.
Especially when we are, getting closer to spring quarter graduation, that's when I get more students attending OPT workshop.
Would you recommend, like, if you're going to be graduating in spring, would you recommend, say, I'll take my vacation quarters that I graduate in the summer? Would that be more advantageous? I mean, would you recommend someone do that, or you say just do what you're going to do?
Well, I think it really depends on the student's plan.
Okay.
Yeah. If they're eligible for vacation and kind of delay their graduation, they could do that to kind of avoid such a backlog of USS application. But again, that means they're delaying their graduation, delaying their opportunities. Sometimes a lot of companies may be recruiting interns and employees starting summer. So if that's the case, then they might want to consider when is the best time for them to graduate.
Right. So let's say I graduate in spring. I'm going to start my OPT in the fall. I can go home during the summer and hang out with my friends. What's the rule about leaving the country?
So that really depends on the status of your application. It could be tricky to travel outside the United States after graduation and while your OPT is pending. Because depending on your OPT status, the document that you bring back to enter the United States is different. For example, if your OPT is still pending, then you need to have something called receipt notice, basically confirmation from USCIS that they have received the student's OPT application and application is pending. That is the proof that they need to bring when they're re-entering the U.S.
Gotcha.
If their OPT has been approved, then they have to bring something called Employment Authorization Document or EAD card. So basically, that's like a card that shows what day a student is eligible to work and what day they need to end their employment. So that is one of the immigration documents they have to bring to enter the United States.
Yeah. Super important that you know this stuff so that you don't get stuck at the border or sent home or something.
So in any case, if you have to travel before your OPT begins, I highly recommend students to consult with advisors, and we can talk about pros and cons and how they can prepare for their reentry back to the U.S.
Yeah, smart. Okay, very good. So they've attended a workshop, they've applied for graduation. So it says they got to submit a graduation quarter request e-form in SCD Global. I think you might have just mentioned that, but I'm not even sure what that is. What does that mean exactly?
So it is basically a student confirming I am graduating with this degree in what quarter. And based on that, the advisor will review and see if the student is really eligible for graduation.
They count at the number of credits and go, yeah, you got enough credits, good job.
And then that really, that triggers advisors to shorten their I-20 so that their I-20 end date matches when they're graduating.
Gotcha. Man, when I graduated, I don't remember all this stuff. I mean, I wasn't an international student. I was domestic, but still you have to apply to graduate. You have to fill out paperwork.
You've done all those. You just forgot.
A long time ago. Man, I feel sorry for you guys. So then after you got all that stuff together, there's all these application materials. I know you have to meet with an advisor. I know you talk about this in your workshop, but just for fun, can we talk about some of the documents you would need to bring to your advisor or collect?
Yeah, so most students will have to collect a copy of their passport, copy of F1 visa, even if it's expired, copy of their I-94, copy of I-20 only if they have been authorized for OPT or CPT in the past, or if they have had different CVS ID number in the US, then they will need to submit copies of their I-20s.
Okay.
Sometimes students might come to the United States on a different visa category and change their immigration status. If that's the case, then they will need to bring that document to advisor for review as well.
Yeah. And we talked to a lot of you guys out there who are in the States already. Maybe you're here as an au pair, or you're here as a tourist or something. And, oh, you love it. I want to stay and be a student. That's okay. You just have to go through the right channels to do all that.
Yep.
Okay, well, cool. That doesn't sound too bad. The advisor is going to meet with you. Like, what's the advisor just going to go through that paperwork, or do they talk about other stuff?
Yeah, so the advisor will go through student application draft to make sure all the information matches their immigration, documents, and everything has been, entered fully, completely. Because if you have any blanks or if you miss something, then that could be, rejection of OPT application or denial. So in order to avoid unnecessary denial, advisors are here to help students review their application.
Right.
Yeah.
How many or how often do you see them get denied? Is it rare?
Very rare.
Okay, good.
In my, years as an advisor, in 10 years, I've had maybe one.
Oh,
and
rare.
It was because student unfortunately filed too late.
Oh.
Yeah. Other than that, I have never had any denial because we are here to help students to have complete application.
Right.
So that should really take care of it.
Huh.
Yeah.
That's amazing,
Yeah.
actually. All right. So it says you meet with your advisor and you receive a new I-20. Different color? What is the I-20? What does it look like?
Well, it's somewhat special because it has a OPT recommendation from advisor. Now, student will need to choose their OPT start date. So student get to choose how soon after graduation or how late they want to start their OPT. So that is something that student will need to think about. Do I want to start working right after my graduation, or do I want more time to begin my employment because I need time to look for a job? So yes, student will need to choose those dates, and that has to fall within 60 days after their graduation.
Which isn't a lot of time, honestly.
Yeah.
The girl I talked to, she had a good deal because she already had a job lined up. But I've also talked to people who they haven't found a job yet. So how do you choose that date for the start? I mean, that's tricky.
It's really tricky, but also once you submit your application, depending on how long the wait time is, that's something that you'll put into consideration. So if you're applying today, and let's say your application processing time at USCIS is 2 months, then you might want to choose OPT start date more than 2 months from that day.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
I know you need a Social Security card to work in the United States. That's part of what they're doing during this process.
Yeah, so some students may already have Social Security number because they worked on campus. But if you don't have Social Security number, you actually can apply for one with the same OPT application.
While you're waiting okay.
Well, no, same application.
So
same
on
the OPT application.
I get it. So they're doing it all.
It asks you, do you have a Social Security number in the United States? And if you don't, you can apply to check yes. And that's a great benefit for students who don't have Social Security number. They can just submit one application and you get OPT approval, EAD card, and Social Security card at the same time.
Is there an additional fee if they apply for that? No?
Nope.
Wow. Cool.
Yeah.
And how long? Okay, well, how long does it take from the time the application goes in? I know it depends a little bit on the backlog, but on average, let's just take spring because spring's the busy time. On average, spring students should expect to wait how long to get a response?
If they apply early enough, then I'd say 3 months would be wait time.
That's a long time.
Yeah. If they wait until very last minute and apply, they might wait 4 or 5 months.
Wow.
Yeah. So that is exactly the reason why we recommend students to apply as early as their OPT application window opens.
Right. Now, I don't want to date this podcast too much, but there are always changes in administrations, different governments. And do you foresee any changes since we just changed to a new president? Do you anticipate that timeline growing longer, or do you think it is the word on the street that it'll probably stay the same?
I haven't really heard of any changes.
Okay.
As far as I know, usually springtime is long wait time, but not just because of the new government. I think springtime is when a lot of applicants are applying, so
Right.
it'll still be the same, in my opinion.
Right.
Yeah.
And you can always talk to us, kind of get a feel for where we're at. It changes from day to day, week to week, year to year, depending. So get a feel for how long it's going to take. But for now, that's good to know.
And one thing I want to mention is
yeah.
USCIS actually has something called Premium Processing Service.
Oh, boy.
So if you want to spend extra money, you can have your application expedited. So that basically means your application might skip the line and might get processed quicker than normal. And it's a hefty fee that you have to pay. It's $1,685, I believe.
That's crazy.
Yes, it's a lot of money. But if you're someone who has jobs lining up,
and
you don't have a lot of time for waiting, then that might be the best option for you to get approved in a short amount of time.
Right. Well, see if you can avoid that, because save yourself a lot of money.
Yep, that's right.
Wow. But it is available if you're up against a wall. Yeah. Premium processing. That's great.
Yeah.
Okay, it threw me there for a sec. Okay, so then they've submitted their application online, and then they have their final quarter complete. So let's say they're in their final quarter and they're halfway through and they break their leg and they miss the next 3 weeks of class. So they get all incompletes on that quarter, but they've already started the process for OPT. What happens?
Yeah, so that depends on types of grade that you might earn. If you did not finish before your graduation, if it's before your graduation, you notice that you're not passing your class, then you should definitely extend your I-20 so that you can have extra quarter to finish whatever is left. And if you already applied, you may have to withdraw your application.
And do you lose your money or do you get a refund?
Yes, you do. Yeah, you lose your money.
Right.
So, you have to be sure that you're passing all your classes, and completion of the program is one of the, requirements for OPT.
Right.
So yes, it's really important that you're passing and making good grades in your final quarter.
Right. Good to know. Very good. All right. So, if you already have a job on campus, and a lot of these students do, they already have a Social Security card, they're working on their job. At what point do they have to give up that job?
On campus?
Yeah. Like I'm working, say, down at the Mac Center.
Sure.
All of a sudden, I got to go do my OPT.
Yeah, the very last day that they can work is last day of the final quarter.
Oh, okay.
So that corresponds with their I-20 end date. So that is when on-campus employment eligibility ends. And after that, you're no longer eligible to work on campus.
Gotcha.
So for graduating students, it's always a good idea to communicate with their supervisors and let them know, hey, this is my final quarter. This is the last day that I can work for you.
Good information there. Make sure you do that. That's courtesy, for one thing, for your employer.
Yep.
That's great. So one thing you guys kind of stress is the responsibility to know and follow the regulations for the OPT and maintaining your F1 status. Who ultimately is responsible for that?
Students.
The student is responsible. Yes. I love that you answered that so easily. Yeah, guys, in America, we have a lot of emphasis on having the students self-advocate, take care of their own business, plan, take care of the stuff that your advisor's not going to hunt you down in the hallway. I mean, they might, but probably not. So all of this onus is on the
That's
student.
correct. But advisors are here to answer any questions. So students on OPT are still more than welcome to meet with advisor, ask any questions about their OPT, employment, how they can maintain their F1 status. We're all here for them.
Right. And is it true that if they meet with their advisors, they should really bring them candy? Is that true? They love chocolate.
That'd be a nice treat.
No, we're kidding. You don't have to bring them any candy. Just kidding. The recruiters, however, bring us candy. We love candy. They talk about an I-765 for the I-765 must be held within 30 days from the date your advisor issues the new I-20. Can you tell them what the I-765 is? Because I don't know.
So basically that is OPT application.
Oh, that's the OPT application.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So when I say I-765, that means OPT application form.
Yeah. And just so you know, if you go into the IP lobby at any of the 3 campuses, we have some forms that tell you all about OPT. So you can also pick these up in addition to listening to the podcast, in addition to talking to everybody. So plenty of information. What about on our international website?
We do have pages on our OPT under immigration section.
Cool.
So each campus has immigration section where students can find more information about OPT.
Right. So if you come to us and you say, I don't know what I'm doing, we're going to hit you over the head because you have plenty of resources to know what you do. I'm kidding. We won't hit you over the head, but we will wonder what you're doing with your time. All right. Very good. Let's see. It says you should receive a notice of action from USCIS 2 to 6 weeks. What is the notice of action? Does that mean they got it? Or does that just
Not exactly.
Okay.
So I mentioned earlier, receipt notice is a letter that's sent by USCIS that confirms the application has been received and it's under review, and it has something called receipt number. So that's basically your case number that's attached to your application. So you can always check your case number to see what's going on with your application.
Oh.
Is it pending? Has it been approved? So that's something that students can go online, type the receipt number, and then find out what's happening.
Cool.
Yeah.
Very nice. So you can always see what's going on. That's great. One of the things is if I'm doing OPT, I need to do how many hours? What's the minimum number of hours I can do?
That's a great question. So minimum that student have to work is 20 hours per week.
20 hours.
Yes. So as long as student is working 20 hours per week, that is considered as full-time under OPT.
Okay.
And they can maintain their F1 status. If it's below 20 hours per week, unfortunately, that's part-time, and that counts towards their unemployment days.
Okay.
So again, 90 days the maximum, and any days that you're working, less than 20 hours per week, that counts towards unemployment clock.
Gotcha. Yeah. So try to keep it above 20 hours. That's really great. Yep. But it said that they can also take classes while they're doing OPT. That's true?
Yeah, so we allow students to take 1 class per quarter. So that's the maximum. And then 1 class, maximum credit is 6 credit. Because some chemistry classes are 6 credit.
Yeah.
But yes, student could take 1 class per quarter. That's technically 4 classes within 12 months. So if someone needs to take additional class to be able to apply for university, that's a great way to complete requirements so that they can apply for transfer.
Very cool. All right, cool. And they can go, so if they're a central student, they can go to any of the campuses to take
That's
classes.
correct.
Because maybe their job's out in Edmonds or something. They'd be closer to the North campus.
Yeah, they can do that.
So you can do that.
Yeah.
There you go, guys. So what happens now? We're getting close to the end of this. I've taken up a lot of your time, Shun.
That's all right.
I really appreciate it. I'm all done with OPT. I did my year, and now I want to go to University of Idaho or University of Washington or California or whatever to continue on to earn my bachelor's degree. what do I got to do at the end of my OPT? Is there something special?
Yeah, so if a student has transfer admission acceptance from university, then they will need to submit transfer out request. Otherwise, here at Seattle Colleges, notifying us which school they're planning to transfer to and when they're planning to start their program at the new school.
Right.
And based on that, advisor release students' CBIS record to their new school, and that's how a student can continue to maintain their F1 status.
Super important.
Yep.
And then good luck on your junior and senior year. That's awesome. That's really great.
Yeah.
So I've asked you so many questions. You get a big gold star for answering all of these questions. There's a lot of information for you guys. You might want to listen to this one a couple times or watch it on YouTube a couple times. I asked all these questions, but I also don't know what I don't know. What did I leave out? Is there anything else you want to make sure that they know? Or maybe the question should be like, what's the most common error you see? Or what do you advise so that everything goes smoothly? I mean, whatever, this is your time to maybe throw out some last nuggets of wisdom.
Yeah. Well, so like I said, OPT is such a great benefit that F1 student has. So if you are thinking, a little bit about working in the United States, that's a great entryway into that professional world. And also in the US, there's currently something called STEM OPT extension.
Oh, yeah.
So if you are someone who have earned bachelor's or higher level degree in STEM fields, so science, technology, engineering, and mathematics, then you could be eligible for extending your OPT. So if you're a bachelor's student in, for example, application development, they have completed 1 year of OPT, and if they want to extend their OPT, they could do additional 24 months.
Wow, that's
so
cool.
Maximum of 36 months of OPT could be available to those specific major students.
Wow. And if you wonder if your major falls in the list of STEM majors, then they have a list on the website, right?
Yes. So
not our website, but
USCIS, Department of Homeland Security, has a STEM eligible program list. And that lists all the programs that are eligible for STEM OPT extension.
Right. So if you're taking nursing and you're like, I wonder if nursing is considered STEM, you can go on there and check that out.
That's correct.
Wow.
Yeah.
I'm curious, since you've met so many students over the years, what's been the coolest OPT that you've heard somebody getting? Like, has anybody gone and worked for the Seahawks, or maybe they worked for I don't know, the Kingdom, or I don't know.
Yeah, well, like there's various jobs that students pursue. Sometimes, if you are English major, you could actually write your own book and then publish it.
What?
Yeah. So I've had one student who was an English major who's done it.
Well, how does that work?
So basically, she worked for herself. So she logged how many hours she worked and then how much she was getting paid based on the book that she published. So that was a really cool job, and then a way for students to be able to create a work for them.
Okay, well now this is a crazy question then. Let's say I'm graduating as a business major. Could I start my own LLC, hire myself as the CEO?
You could do that.
You could?
That is a possibility. So if you're studying a business, you will definitely have to get a business license, and that's something that you will need to do research on your own. But yes, that's a possibility. However, at the end of OPT, I don't want to disappoint you, but at the end of OPT, you have to either close or sell your business, because after the OPT, you're no longer eligible for employment.
That's right.
Yeah.
But could you just mothball it until you're done with your bachelor's and then go? It'd be a shame to shut down a business you just started.
Right. Yeah. But I've had students who have opened their own business. I had one student at South. She opened her own wine business.
Wow.
And she was doing great, and she really loved, operating her own business.
Was she in the wine studies program?
Yes,
up there?
at South.
Very cool. Yeah. Where was she from?
believe she was from China.
Oh, I want to interview her for my podcast.
Yeah, it was a long time ago though.
Oh.
Yeah, but I can find her.
Yeah, that'd be cool. That'd be a really interesting story. Wow, super fascinating.
Yeah, so it's, so much possibilities.
There are. Yeah, I didn't even know. That's really great.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for all your time. I've taken up so much of your time. I hope I'm not.
My pleasure.
Another appointment or something.
No.
Yeah, if you have any other, questions about OPT, just come into the IP office. We'll kind of point you in the right direction.
Yeah.
And hopefully we'll make your dreams come true. If you're not interested in OPT, that's fine too. Just continue with momentum is a magic thing. It's like, if I stop for a year, am I ever going to go back and finish? So, yeah, you can just do all 4 years and get it done. That's true. That's true.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Well, thanks again.
Well, thank you.
Don't forget to tune in every Wednesday right here, Seattle College's Conversations With. Don't forget to like and subscribe. And please share this podcast with everybody you know. Educators, parents, students, anybody you think that might value this information. Because OPT, you can do that at any school, not just Seattle colleges.
That's right.
We hope you'll choose Seattle colleges, but if you're at another community college or if you're at a university somewhere and you're hearing this information, we hope it's useful. So,
yeah.
All right, guys, take care. Have a good one.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. Conversations With is painstakingly crafted for you by the Seattle College's International Programs Department and supported by the lovely folks here on our campus. This show is produced and edited by me, Evan Franulovich. We welcome your emails and questions about coming to Seattle Colleges. Please reach out to us via our website or just give us a rating and a review on Apple Podcasts, as this helps others discover the show. Also, don't forget to follow us on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, or YouTube at Seattle Colleges INTL. That's Seattle Colleges INTL. And be sure to check out all of the shows here on Conversations With. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next week.